Christmas, and on the 1st of June, I got the wedding ring. We got married. And it was a year. We knew each other for a year. And I think kids these days, if they would know each other for a year, get to know each other, then they would know if it was right or not. And it was the best thing I ever did in my whole life. I used to go to dances, and I had lots of people wanting to dance with me. I can remember one time I had 7 dances taken in a row, and I didn't know how I could remember who was who, but they were always there to remind me. But I love to dance. I still love to dance. It's really fun. And
what are other things you love to do?
Other things that I like to do, I like sports. I never did play much sports except at school. We used to play baseball and had a little bit of phys ed. But I'd always liked to cook. I always seemed like I learned something every place I worked or lived. My Aunt Clara was a wonderful, wonderful cook. In fact, the day she took her stroke, she had managed to get 2 lemon pies out of the oven and managed to get to the couch before she couldn't move anymore. But she taught me a lot about cooking, and I can remember being at home. I had chores to do on Saturday. I had to wash the windows, and I had to clean the cupboard. And my mom showed me how to make bran muffins. And that's about all I ever made at home, except one time she had the women around for a quilting bee, and I was supposed to get supper, and so she told me to make scalloped potatoes. And I forgot to put the salt in them, and they all turned black. Oh, the crazy things that people remember, eh?
What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Craziest thing I've ever done? Oh boy. I'd have to think about that one.
That must have been when your dad gave you the steering wheel.
Oh yeah. Well, that was the craziest thing he ever did, I think.
Yeah.
But we were living at Claire's home, out on the farm, and we had an old car, and he was out fixing it, and he thought to himself, I'm going to play a trick on Louise. So we had the 3 oldest ones, and we were going to go to town. And we got down the road a ways, and he said, would you like to drive? He was always kind of kidding me about being a backseat driver. And he said, would you like to drive? And I didn't say anything, and he just took the wheel off and handed it to me. And I looked at him, and then he tried to put the steering wheel back on the, what do you call it, Trevor?
Steering column.
The steering column. And he couldn't get it to go on. And he put his foot on the brake. He couldn't find the brake, and we ended up in the ditch. I was so mad, I just took the 3 kids and started walking home. And a truck came along and said to Fred, he said, how in the world did you get in there? And Fred said, well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. That joke was on him. I think I must have been about 10 or 12 years old, and he would have been 11. And I never wanted to miss school. I loved school. And we started off to school this day on horseback, bareback, on a work horse. I can remember it was such a big horse. And I was sitting behind him, and my mom always used to buy lard in a 3-pound bucket, a red bucket, and that's what my lunch was in. So I had my lunch in this bucket, hanging on to it and him, and it was cold, it was winter, there was a blizzard, snow was blowing, and we got about a half a mile down the road, and the horse was trotting, and I wasn't a good rider. And when he started to trot, I started bouncing up and down. The pail flew out of my hands onto the road. I lost my lunch, and Russell said, maybe we should go back home. So we went back home, and that was really embarrassing. One thing about going to school, I never liked to be in public. I never liked to speak out in public. I was scared skinny to speak in public. And one time I was supposed to sing in church. This is maybe the most embarrassing thing. Her name was Isabel McMillan. She played the piano and I was going to sing. She sang alto. But we were invited to this other girl's place for lunch on Sunday. And we went there, and it was 2 miles, and of course we had to walk. We walked there, and when it came time to go back to church at 7 o'clock at night, we had to run to make it. And as I ran all that way to church, I don't know, something happened to my system. Before that, I could sing in church, I could do anything in church. But I broke down in church and I could not sing, and she had to sing my part and hers too. And I'll never forget that, and I never appeared in public again. And I used to sing other times in church or at Christmas concerts and things, but never again until I think they asked me to teach a class in Edmonton one time, and I didn't want to do it, but I did it, and I was able to get through it, but I don't think I was ever a good teacher. I was more of a follower than a leader, always. But Dad, he was flying all over the world all the time because he was an airman, and he was a flight sergeant. He used to go and take courses so that he could get more money. He always felt that we didn't have enough money, and he would get a little bit more money if he took this course. Yeah, it was true, he did get a little bit more money, and it helped, but in the meantime, I was alone with these 5 kids, and it wasn't easy. He went to way up north. Ellesmere Island is where it was. He went to Ellesmere Island for 4 months. And I have pictures of him sitting in the tents with the Eskimo people, and he loved them. He thought they were so cute. The little children were so cute. And that was when I just had Wes and Jim, though. That was early on in our marriage. And he was away so long. And it didn't matter what station we went to, he was always gone, it seemed to me. He would go away and be away for 3 months or 2 months on course, and he always got good marks. He was really good. During the war, he taught aero engine mechanics to the pilots who came over to train to be pilots. They had to know all about the engines too. And we have pictures of him teaching the pilots, and he went all around the world when he was a flight engineer. He got to be a flight engineer, and he would fly over to Japan and down to South America. I flew over to Europe, but I never got to go with him. He put in for overseas postings, but he never ever got one. But we made lots of friends in the Air Force. We still have them. In fact, I still talked to Grace Lane on the phone the other day and told me all about her family. And Lois and Bill Tillich are in Raymond 6 months of the time. See them occasionally. Sid Skinner passed away. Eileen wrote to me. She lives down in Ontario. She has a son in Red Deer. And we keep in touch every Christmas. I have Margaret Lamb in Portage la Prairie that we keep in touch with, or I do, and Ethel, keep in touch with her. And my cousin Edith is the only one left there. And I remember my aunt, Edith's mother, she used to take her baking to the market every week. I can still taste the orange cake that she used to make. It was so good. I never did anything very wonderful in my life. Just an ordinary person.
What did you used to do to supplement the income while Dad was doing courses while he was away?
Oh, I took a couple of jobs. I sold Tupperware. I sold Studio Girl cosmetics, and I worked at Kresge's as a sales lady in the jewelry department, jewelry and candy. And when I came to Cardston, when we moved down to Cardston, when we retired, I got a job at the hospital for 14 years. I enjoyed that. And I made lots of friends there. In fact, I still see my friends. And when I go to Cardston, they come and visit. I have friends in Raymond, and Paul and I like to go to movies every once in a while. I don't think I have a really favorite movie. I think I like most of the movies I see, except the ones that have a lot of swearing and vulgarity in them. I don't like those, and I really don't enjoy these wild and woolly ones where they blow up everything and everything's flying all over. That doesn't appeal to me too much. I was, I guess, most happy when we got a call to go on a mission to New Zealand Temple. But I was most unhappy when we didn't go because Fred got sick. I was unhappy for him and for me. It was a sad day because I know he was needed somewhere else, but I really miss him. I know when he had finished his operations, and he got a letter in the mail from the MTC, and it said that he'd been honorably released from his mission. And he got on the phone as soon as he got that letter, and he phoned that missionary department, and he said, "I haven't been released from my mission. I've just been transferred to a different area." And I thought it was so wonderful of him to take that attitude. It wasn't, woe is me, or why me did this happen. It was him just looking forward to the next life, to the next phase of our existence. And he knew it wouldn't be long till I would be there, and I knew it wouldn't too, even though the years are adding up into the 15th year now. It seems a long time for me, but I know it's only a short time in eternity. So we try to be happy, we try to be as helpful as we can to people, and try to do the things that are right. And hopefully I've been able to help somebody. Jim said that I led by example mostly, and I hope that I have. I know it wasn't by precept, because I never could think of a little story or a little incident that would have helped the situation when it arose. That never came into my head, and I wish that it had, because those are important when you're raising a family, to be able to have the example and the precepts that go with them. And I know my children, most of them, have acquired those things, and I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for my family. And my family is what I've lived for all these years.
I think the other thing you and Dad were really good at was that you were missionaries your whole life. Dad was always bringing home strays, and you were always cooking for him.
Well, he was a missionary for sure. When he was in the hospital in the Tom Baker Cancer Center, he placed 25 Books of Mormon. And he never placed one except that he asked them, "Will you read this?" And they always said yes. I remember one time one of you girls gave him this heart-to-heart bear. And he loved that bear. And one day it disappeared. And so I said to the nurse, I said, do any of you know what happened to Fred's heart-to-heart bear? And they said, yeah. They said, we've got it. And they left him a note that said, if you want your heart-to-heart bear back, you have to sing a song. So they all came down to his room and he sang them that sow song or something, I think it was. I forget. It was the sow song, and they thought that was so much fun. But he was so much fun for the nurses that they, in fact, in Cardston, when he was in the hospital there, the nurses said that they were supposed to be the ones to cheer up the patients, but they said Fred was the one that cheered us up. If we needed cheering up, we just went to Fred's room. And I think that was quite a tribute.
To you, because behind every good man is a better woman, Ma.
I think he was such a good man. And I can hardly wait to meet him again. Well, there's lots of things little things in life that you remember that come to your mind, you know, that you would like to say, but at the time you can't think of them. I forgot to mention when I was talking about my brother, Jack, that his granddaughter, Jackie, had quadruplets on Good Friday, April the 9th, 2004. And she named them Samuel, Joseph, Ethan, and Brenna. And together they all weighed 17 pounds. So they're pretty special babies, and hopefully they'll all be healthy. They're having a little rough time right now, and Sharon is down there. And Sharon, the mother, when Fred was in Edmonton one time, Sharon was taking her nursing, and he took her to see Sound of Music, and Sharon never forgot that Uncle Fred took her to see Sound of Music. And when we'd go to visit her after she was married and had 2 children, she had a boy and a girl, and they always wanted Fred to sing the Sow song for them. They never forgot that. Seems like all the grandkids had Dad sing the Sow song for them. Dad was pretty good. He could recite and he could sing. I can remember him singing songs, and at weddings he was always singing songs. Reciting, he used to recite the there's a seaside resort called Blackpool.
Albert and the Lion.
Albert and the Lion, and Paula does that one too. Not as good as Dad, but he does it. Anyway,
Anyways, what Mom's famous for at her 85th birthday was what? You said, I hope I'm not just famous for...
Oh, yeah. I said, I hope in this life I'm not just famous for my banana cream pie and watching hockey. But boy, oh boy, I do enjoy the hockey games. We're having fun.
And what just happened last night?
And last night, Calgary got into the semifinals. And they were such exciting games. They're really fun to watch. And I found out that there's 2 other ladies in the manor that watch hockey too, so I'm not the only silly one. So there you go.
That's good.
How do I end this up?
I guess you could take a bow, curtsy.
Should I take a curtain call, a curtain or a bow or a curtsy, like she says, and say, hope to see you soon?
Finish off with maybe what you would consider, say, your most important advice or something like that.
My most important advice to make sure that you write down every day something that you think is important to you or your family that would make their lives better and happier. And not only write it down, maybe even whisper in their ear sometime. And be sure and tell them you love them, because that's more important than anything. In fact, there's a little sign, and Wes wrote it down yesterday. He was at my place, and it's in the dining room there. And it says that, yeah, what do you have in your life that's so important to you that you wouldn't trade them for money or something like that. Darn it, I should phone you that little quote, because he wrote it down. He likes to have those little quotes. I always have stuff on my fridge that he'll say, well, what have you got on your fridge today? And then he'll say, well, what have you got in your fridge today? He likes to eat. I like to have somebody to cook for too, because it makes it more fun if you have somebody to eat with, you know. It's been fun having Don come and have lunch with me once in a while, because he's very knowledgeable. He's knowledgeable in politics. He's knowledgeable in history. He told us yesterday all the things that led up to the Alamo and how the United States got their territories back, and he knows it all. It's amazing what that kid knows when he gets a chance to tell you. It isn't very often, but he was amazed at the books that Wes reads. He said, I didn't know that Wes read all these books. And Wes said, yeah. He says, I read all these books on philosophy and everything, but what good do they do me? But you're supposed to, the only thing you can take with you is what you've read and what you've learned in this life. It's about all you can take.
That's right, and you've always been a great one for reading and...
Oh, I love to read. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and you read your scriptures, and you always have inspirational thoughts for us, and always wanting us to know things and things that you have found that have interested you to make us better people, to make us steadfast, and to show us the way that we should be, the way we should govern ourselves, and the way that we should treat other people around us. And it's been a wonderful journey being your daughter and watching my mother go through her life, and how steadfast she's been in the gospel, and how kind and generous she's been to her neighbor and to people that she didn't know, and how she never faltered and she never complained. And even though she was tired, and she'd go to work and she'd come home, and her and Dad kind of had this thing that worked for them. And even though she worked all day and worked all night, Fred would sit there, and she'd come home and she'd make him his cup of postum and his toast and jam, and they just seemed to work together so well. And he was definitely the brawn, but she was definitely the brains, and she governed herself accordingly and showed us the way to go. And we're grateful for her, for her example and her love and her kindness, and for always being the best mom that we ever could have, and never ever wanted to be anything else. And we love her very much, and we're grateful for her life. And she was definitely trying to think of the word. I'm not very good with words, but she's just perfect.
No.
We just are so proud to have her as our mom. And that's what I have to say, and I'm sure Jim and Myrna and Wes and Dawn and all of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren have wonderful things that they'd love to say about her too, and they did that on her 85th birthday last week, and we just feel so blessed, and we're so grateful, and we love her with all our hearts.
And I love you all with all my heart too.
We love you, Mom.
Thanks for doing this for us, because I know you just hate it.
I know I did. I hated it because I couldn't think of the right things to say.
Well, it's
But
kinda
anyway, like Sister Hinckley said in that little article, you know, she said that she tried to read a scripture, a chapter of each of the 4 Gospels, or the 4 books that we have, every day. And she says, I'm only 3 days behind.
That's right. Yeah,
She was funny.
Yeah, and she also said that the way that her marriage worked is that it took her a few years to get used to how he was, and he took a few years to get used to how she was, and they just learned to like each other the way they were, and I think that's a lot how you and Dad were.
Yeah,
My dad was the eccentric, and my mother was the brains, and sometimes he'd get away with purchases that were just extravagant, and I think she only threw the butter at him once.
I don't think I ever did that.
I think there's still a butter mark in the old house, Mom.
No, I don't think
on the
so.
wall.
I don't remember anything like
No.
that.
And they were very kind and gentle. My mom was a very kind and gentle person. She never raised her voice, and she never had any profanity, and she was always loving and caring towards her husband and her children and those that she came in contact with. And if I can only be half the woman she is,
Huh.
we'll have done something with my life, and it's just been wonderful.
Well, I think that you kids all got your creativity from your father, not from me. And you all have it in one stage or another. You all are so creative in your own way. It's a wonderful thing to me to watch you, and each one of you, how creative you are.
Well, we're only products of our environment, Mom.
No, I don't think so. I don't know where you were in your environment, but
I have talents, but the one I treasure the most is that I'm a lot like my mother. Very kind and giving and thoughtful of others.
well, I tell you one thing. Dad and I never had crosswords of each other, ever. We never, ever had a crossword. And I don't know how many couples could say that. Not very many, I don't think. So it was a good life. It was a wonderful life. I never heard my dad ever say an unkind word either, or my mom. They never ever said unkind words. So I never learned to say them. And that's where you learn them, at home.
That's right.
So, and of all my grandchildren, I think there, can't think of one that doesn't like me. You like me, don't you, Trevor? And I really wonder, you know, how come that I've been so blessed to have all these wonderful children and wonderful grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Whoa!
Do you know how many grandchildren you have?
I think I have 29 or 26 and 29 great-grandchildren, something like that.
Well, that's really neat.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
It's neat that you live so close to most of them that
Yeah.
you can see them whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you still see them whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you drive and
Yeah.
do whatever, 30-year-old women do at your age.
30-year-old women?
Sharp as a tack, Mom.
Gee.
Still go like you're 30.
Oh, I don't think so. I would like to. But you know, I was saying the other day that some days when I get up, I feel like I'm 50. Like I feel like I did when I was 50.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other days that I get up and what's the matter here? Can't move my shoulders very good today. Old age creeping on, that's all. But thank you, Trevor, for your patience and your wonderful creativity, I call it. Trevor and I even made a film where I could hit him with my purse. And he let me. In fact, he encouraged me. And I wish him all the best in his endeavor. I wish all my kids, whatever they want to do with their lives, I hope they're able to do it and do a good job of it. Always remain true to themselves. It's a good life if you make it that way, but you have to work at it. Life isn't going to come around and drop you into a bed of rose petals, you know. You sort of have to work at having a good life. We had to work at ours, and it's a good life. I like to get up every morning and see the sunshine and the birds singing. Oh, it's wonderful. We have a lot of birds this year. They really sing out there in Raymond. And the sun shines and the wind blows once in a while. That's good for us too, because then we get to go see the good from the bad. Some people don't like the wind, but apparently the wind is good for us here in this country. And we enjoy the nice days. It's good to be alive. It's a good life.
What did Grandma Hillyer always say? It's a good life as long as you don't weaken.
Yeah, it's a good life if you don't weaken.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma always had a famous saying that she said for the blessing on the food. She'd say, Lord above us, look down upon us and pity us, poor creatures. Give us food that we can eat and take away these warmed up taters.